With your Tackle HD crappie fishing report for Lake of the Ozarks, here's Jack Uxa from Jack's Guide Service.
What's up, everybody? This is Jack Uxa here with the Lake of the Ozarks fishing report for, this is the end of January. Things have been pretty cold, but particularly the crappie fishing has been great. I'm going to start off with the crappie fishing, and then I'll touch base on the bass here in a little while. But the crappie fishing has been great here, guys. A lot of people are coming down to Lake of the Ozarks. A lot of people catching their limits. Water temperature, depending on where you're at, 41 degrees. Sometimes it's a little bit warmer, sometimes it's a little bit colder. But really the whole lake is doing pretty good. I had a couple trips last week out of the Gravois Arm. They were awesome. That's probably the best area to fish. But, Lynn Creek, the Niangua, man, we had a bunch of crappie today. We were actually bass fishing. We were just catching them on jerk baits, but and we were on the Osage below Bagnell Dam, and there's crappie to be caught down there. So the crappie fishing has been great. They've moved up in the water column. They kind of do that this time of year, which is weird. Sometimes they'll go deep, particularly if you got a lot of white crappies, but we've got a lot of black crappies that really get active in the wintertime, and so that's a lot of what we've been focusing in on. The jerk bait, I briefly mentioned it. This is one of the Fiddlesticks jerk baits from Tackle HD. Awesome bait. It's really a bass bait, but they catch a lot of crappie in the wintertime. And this is not like a new thing. It's been going on for years. I think us fishermen have gotten more and more used to throwing them for crappie. It's a great search bait. A lot of times, if I see a school of fish over there with my live scope, I'll throw a jerk bait in there to see if they're active. If I catch one or two in there, great. Sometimes I keep throwing the jerk bait in there. Sometimes I'll just immediately switch over to the crappie jig or a jig and bobber combination. They call it corking. Kind of just depending on how if they're really, really active that day. Like today, we have a front coming in, and tonight we're going to get a lot of snow. A four-letter word there. They were really chomping. They were just very active today. They're not always that active. Some days you gotta, just go. You're gonna catch way more on a jig, and you gotta vary your retrieve. Sometimes they like a very slow, steady retrieve. Sometimes you pop it and you get their attention, and then you slow it down a lot. You just gotta play with it. You always gotta be paying attention for a light bite. Sometimes they will really thump it. But generally speaking, they're going to be, it's just going to a little bit of pressure or a small bite. It seems like the deeper fish, for whatever reason, are more comfortable, and they tend to thump it a little bit harder. And you got to play with that. Some days they're just going to be deep. This time of year we're just constantly having a series of fronts come through. We'll have 3 or 4 days of nice weather. Before too long, we got another front. And they always bite before the front. Sometimes after the front, you got to go deep, which I don't care. I mean, I'll catch them deep just as good as anything. In fact, sometimes they get a little bit more predictable because they're at home. They're on a brush pile. They're a little deeper, and sometimes it's a little easier to fish in general because I'll take out people as a fishing guide. I'm taking out people, and I really like the roaming fish too because you just cast to where they're at, but they're always moving on you. If you got a deep brush pile, well, guess what? We're going to sit right here. We're going to sit there for 2 hours, and we're going to catch a lot of crappie. Those roaming fish, they're fun, and they're a little bit more, a little bit more challenging. They get a little bit bigger average size, but they're always moving. Sometimes your boat scares them, because they'll come to your boat. What happens more often than not is that you accidentally get too close to them, and then you spook them like that, so you go find another school. But, the days where they're really roaming are days that they're happy and they're aggressive. Those are the days where it doesn't matter what color you're throwing. It's all working. Some days it's one particular color that you got to throw. You find out what color it is. And then, I've got some crappie niblets here, guys. Adding a little scent can make a big difference some days. And lately they've been biting so good, it really hasn't been about the scent. They've been biting it. I always keep it in the boat because you never know what kind of mood they're going to be in. Same thing with a variety of colors here. I've got, first off, I've been telling you guys about this for a while. Monkey milk, make sure you get a bag of these things. These Tackle HG ones are awesome. They're very durable, much more durable than some other brands. You get like 40 in a package, which, I fish all the stinking time. I mean, way more than any human should fish. And a pack of these things will last me a long time. And they'll last a normal guy, all year, well into next year. So when you buy a pack of these things, you get a lot in your bag versus some other brands that are very similar. You get 10, 12, and you kind of run out of those pretty quickly because they're not as durable as these ones. And, obviously you got to go buy some more. So Monkey Milk's been great. All right, make sure you pick up a pack of those. Threadfin shad. You can see it. It's a baitfish color. It's gray with a black back and some silver flake in it. Nothing wrong with that. That's great. Electric Chicken, which is a crazy color. It's bubblegum and then a chartreuse belly with some silver flake. Well, that's great. Cajun Bug has been good for me in the past at times. It's green with an orange back. Bluegrass, I'm out of bluegrass right now, guys. Sorry, I can't show that one to you, but that one's been good. Pumpkin chartreuse has been okay. That's good. It's not bad. Not one of the first ones I throw, but you can only throw so much. This one is this one's rigged. A buddy of mine gave me these jig heads. I've been throwing them. They're great. Most of the time I just use a standard lead, jig head, unpainted, we'll call it. That's kind of like the most common for me. But this is just another one. This is that one color I was talking about, that Cajun one. That's been a good color. It's kind of weird. You want to play around with it, and with live scope nowadays, and especially with me having customers in my boat, we get to experiment more often than normal guys get to experiment with color, because we'll have 2 or 3 people in my boat casting at once. I usually start off with 2 or 3 jig colors, and then we figure out what they're wanting, and then we just all come together and throw one color then, to see what's working. Because we've been having some days that have just been really bright, sunny, calm days, and then it seems like the very next day we've got some front coming in, gray skies, a little bit of rain. It's just been back and forth, and it's been hard to predict. Same thing with the wind. Wind's been all over the place. Some days have been extremely windy, other days have been calm. Some days are just moderate. It's been all over. It's been unpredictable, and really the fish are doing fine. I mean, you just gotta adjust, today's conditions to what the fish want, and what area of the lake is what's working. So, I started off with the jig. I started off with the jerkbait, like I said. Find your active schools. I usually don't catch a ton on this, but if you want to just go around the whole lake, and it's going to take you a little bit more time to come back with a limit, but if you want to just throw a jerkbait all day right now, these fiddlesticks are pretty hard to beat. They cast great. They've got a loud rattle system inside there, and they got good hooks on them. They got good action. You won't catch as many with this, but you'll catch bigger ones with this. I'll start off with that a lot of times, then I'll go to a jig and a cork. I've caught some fish. I'd say most of the time when I start off my jig and a cork combination, I've got the jig set about 3 feet to 4 feet deep, okay? There's times I'll go down to 6 feet. It gets pretty annoying to cast that. I try not to have it down 6 feet deep. It takes forever. 3 feet is fine. That's great. And don't think that you necessarily have to go that deep. There's many times at this time of year I've caught them in a foot of water, particularly in the evenings and in the afternoons. I've had times where I've seen the crappie where I've had the jig and the cork separated by like a foot or so, and I'm literally seeing the flash of a crappie come up and eat the jig because it's only a foot below the surface. I've had that happen this time of year more than I've had it happen in like May when they're spawning. So don't necessarily think they're always deep this time of year. A lot of these schooling fish, they're 5 feet below the surface. Now, a lot of times they're over 30 feet of water, so your electronics are pretty important for that. Like I said, they're just kind of roaming around, so you can't really tell where they're going to be unless you have some good electronics. Some sort of forward-facing sonar is imperative. I've been running Garmin for the last several years. It's great. Kind of started it all, but nowadays, Hummingbird's got their version. Lowrance has got a really good version also. And just Humminbird 360 will do the job too. But you got to have something like that nowadays. Most of the guys have it nowadays. Nobody likes paying the money for it. I've spent about $5,000 on my unit up front. But it helps you so much. And this time of year, you really got to have it. You got to have it all year, but particularly this time of year. So my setup, I've just got a, as far as what reel goes, you could use a variety of reels. This is a Fluger Tryon. That's a great spinning reel. It's cheap. It's inexpensive. $40. This is a Boo Garcia Cardinal. Once again, not an expensive fishing reel. I do spend a little bit more money on my rods here, guys. This is a Fenwick Elite Tech 6'9" light action rod. Sensitive. You got to, I'll spend a little bit more money on my rods than I will on my reels. And I want something to last. And this rod is a nice rod. It's got a lifetime warranty. Another thing that I do want to make sure you guys pay attention to is fresh line. I've got some Berkeley XT 4-pound test here. I've got it in the solar color. I like to have something that I can see a little bit easier. The crappie don't seem to mind, but it's fresh. I don't want you going out there with a line that's been on your reels for like 3 months or since the summertime or something like that. That will absolutely rob you of bites this time of year. If you've got a lot of coils in your line, you just won't feel those little light bites. You gotta have fresh line on there. I know some guys that will go out, they only go out fishing, every 3 or 4 weeks, but when they do go fishing, they put fresh line on just for that one particular day. That's not bad at all. That's a pretty good deal. I try to, I usually have my line on for 3 weeks or so, and then I take it off and put some fresh line on. 3 weeks to a month is about all I'm really care, because I really want that line to be limp, and I want that to transmit the bites to me as quick as can be. I just use monofilament too. There's a lot of guys that we use braid. That's fine. I use braid a ton when I'm bass fishing. I don't think it's great for crappie fishing unless I'm trolling for crappie. And fluorocarbon's great, but man, we have a lot of line management issues with fluorocarbon, so it's really not worth it. Inexpensive monofilament like trilene is hard to beat. That's about it for crappie fishing. Come down, get you some. Everybody's catching them. The Facebook groups are just, man, if you're not catching crappie now, you're not ever going to catch them. And really, guys, a lot of people will plan their trips in April and stuff like that. You know what? That's good, but there's a lot more pressure in April, and the fish are shallower in April. You don't get to use electronics like you can now. So, that's kind of a thing. I'm going to talk real quickly about the bass fishing right now. The jerk baits are doing their thing. They're working great for bass, catching quite a few fish for that. And catch bigger ones, I'm throwing the A-rig. Whether you love it or hate it or whatever, it's working right now. Tackle HD swimmers, they're doing great. These are 3.5 inch size. Today I was throwing the 4 inch. I've been throwing more of the 4 inch this year for whatever reason, but the 3.5 inch has been working good too. That's a straight white color. This is called a blueback herring color. It's been doing good. And Tennessee shad, crystal shad is another really good color that I've been throwing on the sunny days. So that's about it. Bass fishing's been great. I had a 5-pounder and a 4-pounder today, and catching some really big bass, the fattest can be. And crappie fishing's been great. So come down if you're looking for a guide on Lake of the Ozarks. I can help you out. My phone number is 573-434-2570. Thank you.